Hi, I'm Professor N.T. Price, and welcome to my video MBA. In this video, we're going to talk about the importance of planning. You've heard me say that if you fail to plan, plan to fail. And it's very, very important. I can't stress it enough. And to underscore that, I'm going to share with you a little fable, if you will. A fable is a short story with a moral or a purpose. Once upon a time, there was a small village located in an arid, dry desert, probably somewhere in the southwest of the United States, but it could have been anywhere in the world where there are dry places to live. And the people were dependent upon the occasional rainfall for their water. They lived about a mile away from a lake, but they had not ever harnessed the water potential of that lake. And so these people went to their city fathers, their city elders, and said, we need to do something about our lack of water. And so the city elders decided that they wanted to do something for the people. And so they put out a request for proposal, if you will, an RFP, and essentially said that we're looking for contractors who want to supply water to our village. And they found two individuals, a man named Oscar and a man named David, both of whom wanted to provide the village with water and take advantage of this business opportunity. Because, as I said, as the city fathers wanted to have some competition going, they felt that that would be best for the situation. They let contracts to both Oscar and David to provide water to the village. And so immediately upon getting the contract, Oscar was very, very excited. He went out and he built a cistern, a big tank to hold water, and proceeded to get 2 buckets and went out and began the mile-long trek over to the lake to fill the buckets and then walk back a mile to the village and begin filling up the cistern. And he'd do that all day long. However, David did something a little bit different. When he got his contract with the city to provide water, he disappeared. Nobody knew where he was, or at least Oscar didn't, and people didn't seem to know what he was doing. But he was up to something. While Oscar was busy carrying water in his buckets back and forth from the lake to the village, David was going around and doing what we call market research. He went to the villagers one by one and questioned them intensively about what kind of water they wanted, what kind of quality did they expect, what was the availability of the water, and how, when did they need water the most, and in what quantities. And he also talked to them about what they would be willing to pay for the water. And so in doing all of this research and talking to people, he was able to find out exactly what they needed and exactly what they wanted. Then when David resurfaced, he didn't immediately just grab a couple of buckets and start hauling water like Oscar. He went to work writing a business plan. He detailed in that plan exactly what he intended to do and how he intended to do it. Once he completed that business plan, he then began the process of building a large steel, high occupant, that's not the word I'm looking for, but a high yield pipe that would stretch from the lake all the way to the village. And in the process of doing that, he was also able to secure some investors. He presented his business plan to them, and they liked what he was intending to do. And so they put some money up, and David was able to actually hire a construction crew and build this pipeline. A couple of months later, at the grand opening, David confidently announced that he could provide a more quality and more clean water, that Oscar's water had been getting dirt in it and was not entirely clean. That he could provide water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Oscar had only been working on weekdays, Monday through Friday. And that he could also provide as much water as they needed during that time. And more importantly, that he was going to be able to provide the water to the villagers for 75% less than what Oscar was charging. This just made the villagers ecstatic, and they immediately ran to the faucet at the village end of David's pipeline to watch this water come gushing out from the lake. Well, Oscar saw that he now had a competitor. Before he'd been pretty excited that, he was working on this all alone, and he now saw what David was up to. And so he made a few changes to his business. He put covers on the buckets so that dirt might not get in. He proceeded to carry 4 buckets back and forth between the village and the lake. And, in an effort to, get more water capacity. And at the same time, he hired his sons to work nights and weekends to keep the flow of water coming from buckets. Because David did not have employees, he had been smart about how he set this whole thing up. He was able to go around to other villages. In fact, he thought to himself, if our village needs water and I'm able to solve this problem, then there are probably many other villages that also need water and could also solve their problem in a similar way. And so off he went to begin to expand his business. He rewrote his business plan. He made some necessary adjustments and began to expand his business. In a very short time, he was able to pay off his creditors, pay off his investors, who were very happy with the nice returns, the generous returns that he made. And he was able to, like I say, ride off into the mythical sunset, having expanded his business and been quite successful. Oscar, on the other hand, ended up closing his business. His sons didn't want to work in that way, and they took off and went to college to get a college degree and a better paying job. Anyway, the moral of the story is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So in these next videos that I'm going to be producing, we're going to be talking about the business plan and the business planning process. And we're going to talk about the differences between an operational business plan on the one hand, one that will help you operate your business, and a funding business plan, or the objective of which is to raise capital and how to get money attracted to your business. Both are business plans. Both accomplish an objective, but they're unique objectives. As I said, one is for operations and business operations, and one is for raising capital. A little bit different objective, but they have a lot of similarities. And so unless I identify a difference, assume that they are more or less the same. And when there are significant material differences in what they contain and what they need to do, what they need to accomplish, I'll talk about those. So anyway, again, I'm excited for you to begin writing your business plans and preparing them and doing the things that we're going to take through step by step to develop a really good plan for your business and ensure your success. Talk to you soon. There's some questions to consider as you think about this story between Oscar and David. What do you suppose some of the key differences were between Oscar and David with respect to how they approached their business, particularly with David's planning? Another question you might think about, and you might want to write down these answers as you think about these and just let them sink in, particularly as they relate to your business idea or your existing business. Another question might be, again, what is the value of planning? How much value can you place on the time that you take to plan before you execute your strategy? Thinking about David for a minute and also your business idea, who were some of the contacts and resources that David had as he was setting up his business success cycle? If you recall, the business success cycle talks about goals, resources, the interactions with those resources, and then the success or feedback. What were David's? And what would yours be? And so think about those and maybe take some time to write that down. And lastly, what other considerations do you think you might need to take into account with your plans? Again, as you sit down and list out your goals, your resources, your interaction, and your successes. In other words, take this moral story, this fable, if you will, with a moral to it, and see how it actually applies to your situation.